Welcome to Jasper National Park in Alberta and my first full day of driving from Vancouver to Newfoundland, Canada. I had no idea what was waiting for me on the other side of these mountains, but that experience, which happened on the snow-stormy road from Hinton to Edson, Alberta, solidified everything I've been learning in my travels around the world. So in this video, I want to share 3 road trip experiences that changed how I travel. The third one happened about 5 hours after being on this road. My first road trip experience was when I was 18 and hitchhiking through Europe alone. I especially loved getting rides from lorry or semi or 18-wheeler drivers. They had lots of tips and tricks for the road, and they were great storytellers. So this one Brit, he picked me up somewhere west of Paris. We were driving along the highway, and then he turned off the highway and went down a narrow dirt road into sort of a forest. There were trees on either side, and it didn't look like anything was there. He told me there was a great steak and chips place there. He hasn't been there for years, but that I would love it. The road got narrower and narrower. Obviously, nobody had driven on it for ages, and I was already trying to figure out how I'm going to grab my stuff and jump out and run back to the highway. I knew that my big backpack was way too far stowed in the back. I could never grab that. My day pack was behind my seat, and I had a feeling I wouldn't be able to grab that either. But I still had my money belt around my waist, so at least I had my money, my passport, and my traveler's checks. In the meantime, while I'm trying to figure all this out, how I'm going to escape, branches are scraping against the side of the truck. We're going further and further into the forest. He kept telling me that it's just a little bit further and to sit tight and we'll be there before we know it. But the farther that we got into the forest, the more I knew that it was going to be harder for me to escape when we finally got to whatever he wanted to take me to. So I started to tighten my grip on the door handle, and I was waiting for a little opening on my side so that I could jump out. The problem, of course, is that it's an 18-wheeler, which means it's really high up, and I'm a little bit little, and it's kind of hard to just jump out and run away, but I had to do it. Then the road widened, like all of a sudden, and there was a huge clearing. And on the left side of the clearing, there's this old ramshackle restaurant that clearly had been closed for a long time. And there was a sign saying, "Our specialty is steak and chips." And the truck driver was so disappointed. He's like, blimey, it's closed. So we go into the clearing, and he turns the truck around, and then we slowly make our way back out to the road. And he apologized to me for taking me on this detour for no good reason. So from that experience, I learned to always keep my day pack really close by and never put my backpack, my big backpack, in the trunk or the back of any vehicle when I'm hitchhiking. More importantly, I learned that my fear and stress and anxiety was completely the result of what I was thinking and feeling. It really had nothing to do with what was going on around me, because all that was happening was we were driving down a road and he said, "I'm going to take you to a restaurant." And that was literally what he intended to do. But my thoughts and my feelings were the things that got me super scared and tense. My second road trip experience, which wasn't really quite on the road, was at Kathmandu Airport in Nepal. So I was booked on a 10 or 11 p.m. flight to New Delhi in India. And I was so excited to go to India because it's my dream destination. The check-in attendants at Buddha Air told me that they couldn't let me on the flight because my Indian visa had expired the day before. They weren't allowed to fly any passenger into India who didn't have a valid visa. So there I am, stranded at the Kathmandu airport, shattered because my dream of going to my top world destination was gone. I didn't want to stay in Nepal because my visa for Nepal actually would expire the next day. So I went over to the flight screen and I watched to see where I'd go next. The destinations were completely foreign. Janakpur, Lucknow, Dhaka, Doha, and the familiar London or Amsterdam destinations weren't leaving until the next morning. I didn't really want to stay in the Kathmandu airport overnight. Plus, I'd already been to London and Amsterdam, and they're great, but I just didn't really want to go back. And then I saw it. Dubai, United Arab Emirates. A flight was leaving in 30 minutes, and I knew that Dubai was cosmopolitan enough that I could go anywhere. Tap, tap, tap on my phone, and voila, I'm on the next flight to Dubai. I spent 3 nights there. It's never been one of my top destinations, but it's really, really cool to see. And after a bit of research in Dubai, I decided to spend the rest of my 3 weeks in Hong Kong. And that's another place I never would have chosen, but I loved it. Hong Kong Island, which is a mountain that's covered by trees and a few high-rises down towards the water, but it's so many trees. My high-rise hotel was right between the zoo and the botanical gardens that also had a bird sanctuary. Beautiful. That was in January 2020. The coronavirus epidemic was just starting and was big news there. People were already lining up for masks, and a lot of places had already sold out. From that experience, getting stuck at the Kathmandu airport, I learned to expect and even enjoy detours. It comes down to what I'm thinking and believing about my situation. I could have gripped my Indian travel dreams are ruined and I'm never going to get to go there and blah, 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 and feel like crap. Or I could hold the, wow, that was so cool, getting stuck in Kathmandu, just kind of feeling my way over to Dubai and Hong Kong and really having a great experience. And now I get to look forward to India as my next destination. I also learned how to relax through the scary stuff. I'm learning that accepting and surrendering to a situation doesn't mean you just passively lie back and give up all hope. Rather, acceptance and surrender makes it easier to think clearly, to make good decisions, and to stay lighthearted and joyful no matter what happens. Because whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and I'd rather go into that with a light, joyful, peaceful heart than a fearful, anxious, resentful one. The third road trip experience that changed how I travel happened a few hours after driving this very road through Jasper National Park. It was about 8 p.m. that I left Hinton, and it was dark and lightly snowing, but I really wanted to get to Edson, so I had less driving to do the next day because I had friends to meet. So less than 10 minutes after leaving Hinton, I was driving through a full-fledged snow rainstorm. Huge, wet, white snowflakes were plastering the windshield, and they slushed up the whole highway. And semis were coming and passing me in the dark. I'm gripping the steering wheel, and I'm reliving the time 30 years ago when I hit black ice on a Saskatchewan highway. I had done a 360, crossed the line into the path of an oncoming semi, and then I flew over the ditch and into a farmer's field. It took about 2 seconds for that whole thing to happen, but it felt like forever. The tow truck driver pulled up about 10 minutes after I hit the ditch. The semi driver that almost hit me radioed in for a tow truck, gave them my location, and the tow truck came and pulled me out. So when I was driving through that snowy rainstorm going towards Edson, I remembered a question that some wise person once asked me. She said, "What problem do you have right now in this moment?" Clearly, I thought, my problem is I'm going to hit the ditch. Then I realized that actually isn't my problem. Hitting the ditch happened 30 years ago, so that's not actually a problem. So again, the question came to my mind. What is my problem in this actual moment? Well, my hands hurt because I'm gripping the steering wheel really tightly. I loosened them, and that problem was solved. Again, I asked myself, what is my actual problem in this moment? And then I realized I'm going 90 kilometers an hour instead of the posted 110, and it's going to take me forever to get to Edson. Is that a problem? No. And then it hit me. I don't actually have a problem in this moment in my warm camper van. Yeah, it's a snowstorm. And yeah, it's kind of hard to see. And yeah, it kind of looks really pretty with the big snowflakes hitting the windshield. There's enough trucks going by that I know if I do end up in the ditch, one of them's going to radio for a tow truck and save the day. So my only problem is what I'm thinking and believing about the past and the future, which is the possibility of hitting the ditch. But other than that, I actually have nothing to worry about. I don't have a problem. The last 20 minutes of that drive, I totally relaxed. I sailed through that snowstorm, and I got to Edson with no problem at all. So these 3 road trip / airport experiences haven't just changed how I travel, they change how I live. I am learning to lighten up and surrender to what's happening so I can flow easily through the moment. I'm also prepared for challenges because I know they're going to happen, but I don't start living the problem or the suffering before it's actually mine. So I encourage you, whether you're on the road or in your favorite armchair, to ask yourself if you feel in pain or if you're scared or if you're anxious in any way. In this moment, what is your actual problem other than what you're thinking or believing about the past or the future? My run through Jasper National Park is ending, so I bid you adieu. Take good care of yourself because you are worth taking good care of. Mwah!